Howdy folks! As promised, I'm going to deliver a video for you about how to use the slab roller. Slab roller is this big blue piece of equipment that sits at the end of the studio. So, it's a great way to make slabs. I wouldn't bother with it though unless you need a decent sized one, because it's pretty easy to just throw out a slab. And there's videos for that too, called slab roller without, or making a slab without a slab roller. Anyway, so I want a decent sized square, probably 14, 18 inches. So I'm going to use not quite a whole pug, but about 3/4 of a pug. You can absolutely use a whole pug if you need a big slab. So anyway, the first thing that we want to do is just bring the width of this thing down a little bit so that it will fit through our rollers. So I'm gonna just throw it at the ground a couple of times, at the table. And then if you read the information that I posted about slabs, there was some information about grain, right? About making sure that you alter the grain so that it's not all stretched in one direction. If it's all stretched in one direction, that grain gets strained and your slab is less strong. So if you can mix it up, work in different directions, you get a stronger grain. So I'm going to throw this once the straight up way and then another time the other way. And again, a rotation. I don't need to bring it way down. I'm not making the slab here. That's why we have a slab roller. But I am going to bring down one edge. So I'm going to bring down the front edge so that I can feed it into the slab roller a little easier, so that the slab roller doesn't have to strain so much, and so that the clay doesn't have to strain so much. Going from this thick to 1/4 of an inch, if I roll that through one time, I'll get all sorts of tears on the edges of the slab. So getting closer is better. So now I've got a nice little lead-in, kind of a ramp for the slab roller to handle. All right. Now to the slab roller. Okay, there will always be a piece of fabric either on top of the slab roller or right under the slab roller. You must have fabric, and that fabric must be on both sides of the clay. Another thing to just consider is that your clay is going to stretch out, right? So you don't want to just, put your slab here, because then as that stretches out, it's going to go beyond the fabric, and then you'll wind up with clay on the rollers. And these rollers are highly textured, and it's really hard to get the clay out of them. So keep the clay in the center of the fabric so that you've got enough that when it rolls out, you're not going to get clay on the rollers. There we go. That looks great. Okay, then we need to set our rollers. So the rollers have two knobs for altering. And I'm going to start out, they've got measuring devices on the sides, but honestly they're not very accurate. But so long as you know that both of them are set the same, and then you work down, so you work to smaller amounts. Right now this is about right between 1/2 and 1/4, so that would be 3/8, but what we're going to get is more like a 1/2 inch slab. Anyway, so I'm going to snug this right up to the rollers, and then I'm going to use the captain's wheel to push the slab through. And you can kind of see it lowering when it comes through, which is nice. Now I'm going to pull it through to the long side. The longer side is here, so you always want to start your slab on the short side so that it has enough room to roll out. And there's our first roll. Now as you can see, we get some kind of feathering on these edges, so we want to compress that back down. And that's just because there's nothing to compress it on the other side. And then again, we want to change the grain. So now I'm going to switch from going the long way to going the short way. And now this is also because I want a square slab. If you wanted a long rectangular or a long strip of slab for whatever your project is, you can continue to go this way, but you do want to flip your clay, right? Because the one on top rolls harder, the other one comes along for the ride. So you want to at least flip it. But I'm going to change direction. So, and then you do notice that now I've got more feathering on the other side as well. Okay, so now by stretching it this way, then I'm going to get closer to that square that I'm looking for. So back to the center of the canvas, you can flip it. If you're working with large slabs, you're going to want to have 2 people, because carrying these slabs back over to the short side of the table can be tricky if they're really big. Okay, so now once again, I'm gonna snug it up, but I wanna drop my thickness. And I'm going to run this through 3 times. Again, if I do it 1 time, I'll get a lot of bad feathering. I'll rip those edges badly. If I send it through a little bit at a time, I get less feathering and I get the strength of changing the grain. So now I'm gonna go down to what reads as 1/4 of an inch here, and we'll see how that comes out. Again, always use both. Okay, snugging that up to the rollers, using my captain's wheel. There we go. All right, not bad. Again, I'm gonna compress, but like this is set at 1/4 of an inch, which we know is like the width of a pinky fingernail, but it's more like the width of my whole pinky. So I'm gonna bring it down 1 more time. And I wanna put it through this way again because I wanna make it closer to a square. So I'm gonna flip it. Also, when you pick up slabs, if you pick them up with your palms instead of your fingertips, you'll get a lot less holes and dents. That was a hot tip, folks. All right, back to the short side. Now I'm gonna just bring this down 1.5 cranks, and then 1.5 cranks. Snug that right up to the rollers again. And captain's wheel. There we go. Ta-da! A beautiful slab.